AutoMotion is a companion application to Motion and Final Cut Pro that makes it possible to quickly create multiple versions of graphics using templates. So let's kick off by looking at this basic template that I made up earlier. If I just scrub through, you'll be able to see that it's fairly simple design. It's got an animated background and then 2 lines of text which are being brought on using Motion's wonderful behaviors. So let's close that down and I'll launch into AutoMotion. And let's create a new project and save it. And I'll just explain the AutoMotion interface. So at the bottom of the window we've got the versions list, and this shows a list of all the different versions that you create and ultimately export. The top right of the AutoMotion window is the viewer where you can see the results as you select the different versions. And on top left we have the templates area where the source templates are managed, and it also handles the mapping of the columns in the versions area to the text objects over in the template. So let's import the basic text template that we just looked at. And once that's loaded into AutoMotion, I can scrub through just like I did in Motion, and I can see the animation on that template. So now we've got the template, we just need some data. Now the data, or the versions that we create, can either be entered manually down here in the versions list, or you can import a text file. So I'm going to go up to File, Import Text File, and select this text file here, which is just a regular tab delimited text file as exported from Excel. If I open that and import that, what we end up with is we get 40 different versions created, 40 rows of data. And within each version there are 2 fields, so we see the 2 columns here, field 1 and field 2. So if I click on different versions in the versions list, you'll notice that nothing changes up in the viewer. And the reason for that is because we haven't yet mapped how the data is fed into the text objects into the template. So if we have a look at the templates area, you can see that there are 2 text objects listed for this current template, the basic text template. AutoMotion will handle up to 10 text objects per template. So I'm going to select the first line to take its data from field 1 or column 1, and the second line of text take its data from field 2. And if I select a version that has both fields filled out, then we can see the results in the viewer. Okay, so just to mention that if I scrub through, all this animation is still preserved. The only thing that has changed is the actual text contents. So at this point I'm going to do a export. So if I go Export and choose Smart Export, AutoMotion's now exporting 40 different motion files. You can see how quickly that happened. And I'm going to import this into Final Cut Pro. This will take a few seconds. Obviously there's quite a few versions to import. And when it's finished, what we end up with is a new bin called Motion Import, and it's got a timestamp on it. And inside here are all the 40 versions. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all these, and for demo purposes I'm just going to put them back to back on the timeline. So if we go in and have a look, you'll see that was a particular one we had before, and there it is as a motion file overlaid over the footage. So you can already see that I've saved a ton of time by using AutoMotion to create the graphics rather than entering the text and saving each version manually. But there's a few things I want to change here. First of all, if I go back here, I think there's actually a spelling mistake on, there we go, on Elton John, not Elton John. So let's hop back to AutoMotion. and let's find his particular graphic. There we go. And if I just go in and change that text, change the I for an O and hit return, and you'll see that it updates instantly in the viewer. Now there's one other thing that's changed here, that this version is now shown as orange rather than green, and green indicates that the export is up to date, whereas orange indicates that something has changed in AutoMotion, so it will need to be re-exported. So what I'll do is I'll just go up to File, Export, Smart Export, and this will only export anything that needs to be exported. There we go, you can see it's now gone green. And if I switch back to Final Cut Pro, there we go, it's now got the correct spelling in Final Cut Pro. So that's a simple example of making a change in AutoMotion and getting it to ripple through into Final Cut Pro, but it doesn't stop there. We can do a lot more than that. So let's do two more things. I'd like to change the color of the text from yellow to blue, and also some of these graphics are actually song titles, like this one with the song title on the top and the album title underneath, and maybe it'd be good to have that as a different template with some different color backgrounds and also a graphic of a CD as well. So let's see how we do that. So I'll switch back to AutoMotion, and let's do the change of text color first. And I can do that very simply by going up to the templates area and pressing the edit button. And what this will do is this will open up the current template into Motion. So I can now select the top text object, and let's just change the color of this, and we'll make it a blue color, light blue color instead. Let me close this down and save it. And when I switch back to AutoMotion, it takes about half a second, but you can see now that basically that's changed, and in fact all the versions that use that particular template have now changed. So let's do the other thing, and let's import a second template. So I'll go to File, go to Import Template again, and I have a template here called Song Titles. So that's imported it into AutoMotion. What I now need to do is select which versions I want to assign the new template to. So I'll just select a few different versions down here. One there, and I think there's a few more down here. There we go. Okay, so I've got several versions selected now, and if you notice down on the bottom left in the versions list, the first column says 01 for all the versions at the moment. That indicates that we're using the first template that we imported, the basic text template. I'm going to change that to the second template, Song Titles. And you'll see now down in the versions list that's changed to 02. So if I just click off this and click back, you'll see that I need to do the field mapping. So let's set up that as before, first line to field 1, second line to field 2. And what we now have is all the animation of this new graphic, but with the existing data that was already there. Okay, so we now need to do another smart export. Of course, this time it'll have to export all 40 versions because we made a change to all of them. Let me switch back to Final Cut Pro. And this will take a couple of seconds just because there's so many files to work out that they've actually changed and need updating. And there we go. So now we have new templates being used on the timeline, and we haven't had to change anything at all in Final Cut Pro. So that's AutoMotion from Digital Heaven.